Rewind-A-Dynamite from the post-wrestling site. AEW, lighting up the fuse. Sit back and enjoy the bubbly. As we hear from John and Wai Ting. Where we're going, we don't need roads. And if the buck stops here, this thing might blow. Everything you hear are opinions of the show. And if you don't like it, go to the forums and let them know.
And hello, everybody. Welcome to Rewind-A-Dynamite with Wai Ting and his sidekick.
Excuse me?
How are you tonight, Wai?
I'm doing great. Yeah, how about yourself?
I'm doing well. Can I inquire, did you get a haircut?
Yes, I did.
Well, it looks very sharp.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. Yeah, I always feel like a bit naked not wearing a shirt. Or sorry, not.
You should have seen back in the all audio days when I had to do these shows with Wai while he was in shorts, and that was it. It was uncomfortable.
For me, I guess my hat might as well be my shirt. You know, I always seem to have it on these days. But I would say once every 2 months when I get a haircut, I do like to show it off. Yeah.
Yeah, I was picking up my daughter from school yesterday, and these two random kids just walked by. I don't know who these kids are, but they're like, "Did you get a haircut?" And they're looking at me. I was like, the answer was yes. I did get my haircut the day before, but I don't know who you are. And I like my hair there's not a whole lot of variance to how I look. Anyway, I was like,
yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah,
I guess
I didn't
always
even know who these kids were. I don't even know. I don't think they're in my daughter's class. But anyway.
I guess you always look like you've got a haircut, and to them, you know, maybe that's what they just associate with haircuts.
Don't know, can't explain, but that is it. It looks very nice, Wai.
You as well, John. Thank you very much for the compliment. I appreciate it. We need more of that in the world today.
We don't talk about our hair enough.
No, we don't. We can, I guess. Yeah. How often do you shave your head?
Once a week.
Once a week, okay. So it's really like those kids could have made that comment really at any point, and I think it would have still been valid.
Yeah, there's like by day 6 is when I noticed it, and then I cut it. So it's like there's
interesting.
Yeah, it's one of my idiosyncrasies.
Shaving your head every 6 days.
Speaking of this topic, do you know a particular company that is now a free agent now that they are no longer the official razor of the UFC? This is Manscaped has been replaced by something called Jeremy's Razors. I could be mistaken the name.
I'm very familiar. Yeah.
Yes. Oh, that's the company.
Yeah, it's the right wing razor. Yeah.
No way. The anti-woke razor.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah,
they have replaced Manscaped. Apparently there's quite the market for the anti-woke razor section of the market. It blows my mind. These are them. I mean, the folks out there that are, I mean, just.
Well, you'd be surprised. Yeah. So I feel like we've talked about this, and like I know, like
I talked about this today with Brandon. I didn't even put 2 and 2 together that we actually dealt with this company that reached out to us once.
And I understand we're giving them a ton of free press by even like having this discussion, but it's just interesting. So we'll talk about it. Like doing this podcast ever since we started like incorporating ads from time to time, we get offered things like this. And you'd be surprised at the amount of like anti-woke blank that exists out there that's been pitched to like various podcasts. And podcasts are, I guess, just like the place where like these sort of things advertise, because I guess I wouldn't know where else would play their ads.
Where's my anti-woke mattress?
But like, I mean, like, like obviously like apparel companies, can build themselves as like I guess anti-woke or whatever. Like. I'm sure there's like a ton of male grooming things are like promoting themselves as like anti-woke grooming, and I guess this razor blade company works very effectively. There are people that just like are so incredibly passionate about labeling themselves this sort of thing that they'd be willing to pay whatever money to support it, I guess.
I would love to get into the mind of the person that is there at the department store and they're weighing the two options. It's like, this razor's too woke for
How
me.
can I make a statement with my razor?
Fuck Gillette.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure it came about through some controversy that necessitated the creation of this thing, this alternative, right? So whatever makes you feel better, spend your money however you want. Congratulations to the people profiting off of this.
Yeah, I'm sure they all go to bed at night knowing that they are taking care of you, the consumer, and your ideologies with their form of commerce. So that is enough on them. We have late news coming out tonight because today was the scheduled end of the 6-month stay on the civil case involving Janel Grant, and Janel Grant's representation got out a statement during Dynamite tonight stating that, quote, "Tonight, the United States Southern District of New York informed us that they will be letting the stay expire on Janel Grant's lawsuit against former WWE CEO Vince McMahon, WWE executive John Laurinaitis, and WWE for sexual assault and human trafficking. This decision allows Ms. Grant to proceed with her civil charges against McMahon, Laurinaitis, and WWE while federal prosecutors continue their criminal investigation." In response, Ms. Grant's attorney, Ann Callis, released the following statement, quote, "We are pleased that prosecutors for the Southern District of New York have concluded that they can continue their criminal investigation while we bring forward new evidence in our civil case about the sexual exploitation carried out by Janel Grant's abusers. For the last 6 months, Ms. Grant has patiently waited to hold Vince McMahon, John Laurinaitis, and WWE accountable for the sex trafficking and abuse she endured at the company on a near-daily basis. Her wait is over, and we now look forward to sharing Ms. Grant's story." And we do have a story up on the site, courtesy of Brandon Thurston. I do encourage people to go check that out for more information on this. At the core, I think the major takeaway is the fact that, yes, this stay is being lifted, and therefore Janel Grant and her team can proceed forward and introduce new evidence that they can explore. But the Southern District of New York is not done. They are continuing this investigation into Vince McMahon, and I think that is pretty significant that after 6 months, they obviously feel the need that they need additional time from all of this. What that means, whether that turns into anything, remains to be seen, but it tells me that it's not as though this is just slowed and they are wrapping this up. They are allowing Janel Grant to get her case back on track, but not at the expense of curtailing their own investigation.
Interesting. And correct me if I'm wrong, but this PR firm that Janel Grant and Callis are now attached to, they weren't attached to them, but when the lawsuit was active, right?
No.
So we're kind of entering a different chapter, at least on their side of things, in terms of like their connection to the press.
Yes, this new PR group came on board shortly before the release of the Mr. McMahon series. So this was back around September that they came on and have been representing them. So yeah, it is a new PR group that is involved. Tag PR is still involved with her case as well. It's a little confusing with the multiple PR firms involved.
Okay.
So,
do you have any expectations?
No, I think like it would be like one thing I've learned is that when it comes to these federal investigations, they are extremely careful about what they disclose and are not going to tip their hand at all to whatever is going on behind the scenes. But you have to be prepared for whatever comes out of this. It may turn into they cannot proceed forward. But the fact is that they have been investigating this for 6 months and are continuing to do so. I think that's pretty notable because I think many would have thought that many months out that come December 11th, if there's no indictment, that it would mean that after those 6 months, they would probably relax things. And this comes as the head of the Southern District of New York is about to resign in 2 days as well. So there's going to be a major shakeup there as well. A big story to follow, as always, as we come up on almost a year since this suit was filed by Janel Grant last January. NXT New Year's Evil is now set for the Shrine Expo Hall on January the 7th. Which I'm glad they have chosen a quiet week in pro wrestling. They are going to have the eyes of the wrestling world that week, as this will be, we will have Wrestle Kingdom on Saturday, Wrestle Dynasty Sunday, the Netflix launch on Monday, this on Tuesday. It's going to be a mammoth week of professional wrestling on all fronts. But they have already gotten out the 2 top title matches following the Iron Survivor challenges, with Obafemi challenging Trick Williams. And I thought they had a great segment on Tuesday. Obafemi was... this guy has just been... a revelation in NXT. He has come seemingly out of nowhere into this system, and I think this guy has just risen to such a level. This felt like a big match by the time this segment was over. Mm-hmm. And also, you're going to be getting Trick Williams against Eddie Thorpe next Tuesday after Eddie Thorpe revealed he attacked himself, which I believe was my initial thought on the Jade Cargill angle, which maybe has now been occupied by NXT.
Was it one of those, it was me, Austin, all along?
It was me, Austin.
Yes. I'm the higher power. Eddie Thorpe is the higher power. Yeah. We've had a lot of mystery attack angles in the WWE specifically over the past several weeks. I'm assuming this is the only one where the perpetrator will be revealed to be himself. Yeah.
And then also January 7th, Roxanne Perez against Julia for the NXT women's title. So 2 pretty big matches. And the Shrine Expo Hall, I mean, it does seem like they are going for, kind of they're not booking like traditional arenas. It's looking for like halls and things that you can occupy several thousand. And even at the factory this past Saturday for Deadline, they had 2,000 people there. And you can fill a lot more in the factory, but it sounded great on Saturday. It was a lively audience, and you wouldn't have known that you could fit more people in there. I'm certain that's going to be a similar type of vibe for this show as well.
I like it. I think it actually directly answers many of the things that people have been asking for AEW to do. Scaling down to find buildings that suit the types of crowds that you're attracting. I mean, obviously, maybe NXT doesn't have similar pressures to maybe what an AEW does to fill a bigger stadium. But I think it translates to a better product on TV. When you can pack and make your product sound like it's at near capacity. And I'm also curious to see like different types of setups with the different sizes and shapes of these buildings too, which these types of PLEs tend to provide, or special editions of NXT tend to provide.
NXT also saw the return of Shotzi, who had torn her ACL back in February. She showed up saving Tatum Paxley and Gigi Dolan from Fatal Influence. And prior to NXT being taped, we got the first LFG taping featuring Elijah Holyfield, the son of Evander Holyfield. So they're starting to roll out legends and future greats.
Yeah, maybe a little bit faster than I was expecting, but I mean, by the time these press releases come out, I guess they're probably long in the works already. But this guy like has no wrestling experience, right? Like,
no.
Like, is this like technically the first public match he's having?
I believe this is his first match ever.
Yeah. So, I mean, I wonder how much training he's even had prior to this. It means like they're like, I'm curious to see what this LFG thing is. Do we know who else might be a participant in LFG so far?
Not wrestlers, only the coaches and, the names that they've attached there. But I'm sure it's going to, like, you would think it's a natural, like you mentioned, of ID talent, that this would be a great introduction for them. And for someone like that has a name like Elijah Holyfield. Surprised they didn't change his name.
Yeah, that one.
Elijah Duncan.
Duncan.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's only LFG, okay? Like, maybe if he gets the contract, they'll actually change it, okay?
Yeah. Bronson Reed was set to go under surgery today in Birmingham, Alabama. So it does sound like it's going to be some time before he is back. Really unfortunate, because this guy had, after what it felt like just months and months of just kind of spinning his wheels, unfortunately, he's just been on the push of a lifetime since the summer, and that excellent angle introducing the multiple tsunamis, and he's just been on a tear since then. And unfortunately, a great spot at WarGames, but unfortunately, it's going to take him out from such a key time where he was just starting to break away. And, I hope when he's back, like it's like odds are this will probably be a guy that even if it's close to Mania, they hold off till after Mania and is one of those like returns. But I think he's in a good spot for when he comes back. But it sucks when you've got that momentum, and that's always a tough mental part to deal with these injuries.
Well, first and foremost, I mean, I obviously we wish him, a healthy, speedy recovery. But I also hope that like there are no long-term effects to whatever injury this might be.
It's a great point. Yeah.
Like especially for a guy who works that style, doing this move every single night. I mean, it's your feet. We all need our feet, especially if you're a heavyweight professional wrestler, who has to work this sort of style. I mean, I wonder if whoever like called for the spot like feels bad, and like. Not that they should.
Like WrestleMania time. Like, hey, Brock, couldn't you do a shooting star press back in Ohio Valley Wrestling?
I mean, hindsight is 2020. Of course, like these things have been pulled off in the past without any sort of like issue. But man, like looking back, did we really need like the 300-pounder jumping off the cage? He's done. He was bound to do this at some point.
Listen, the night before, you and I were going over this match, and like we figured like this is the time they're going to do this spot. I think it was there.
You can't really blame anybody, but like, will they be hesitant to ask for something like this again in the future, especially considering the Jimmy Uso injury as well?
I could see some hesitancy about given the fact that the Jimmy Uso one not as serious, but the fact that you had both of these injuries, especially a guy the size of Bronson Reed, you do take that into account, but. They're always going to lean towards the big spectacular. It was both WarGames matches. It was the big dives off of the top that the matches were essentially structured around. Like those were the big moments, and I do feel they will continue those. There are going to be injuries, unfortunately, that come with those.
But Reed's had such a strong run thus far that I think he's already elevated himself to a certain status, so he doesn't really get hurt that much when he comes back, hopefully. But who's to say he wouldn't have been even higher if he stuck around for this WrestleMania cycle?
The Tokyo Sports Awards, which always get a lot of play, especially in Japan, they were handed out the other day, and we'll just quickly go through the recipients. The big one being the MVP went to Zack Sabre Jr. Now, the thing about the Tokyo Sports Awards is that they are very political. There is a lot of kind of to the formula of these, like of kind of dispersing these among companies. It's sometimes not always going to line up with maybe what your choices would be. But the MVP award, I mean, it is goddamn near impossible for a foreigner to win this. Case in point, Kenny Omega, that was never able to win this award. Will Ospreay was not able to win this award. The last foreigner was Bob Sapp in 2002 to win this. And Bob Sapp was a level of celebrity that does not exist in professional wrestling. I mean, he was at just a level you cannot fathom in 2002 in Japan.
And Zach is not there. Nowhere near
Zach
that.
is not at Bob
He
Sapp's
should be.
level.
He should be.
I mean,
Zach,
had their paths crossed, I mean, that would be a fascinating matchup right there as Zack Sabre Jr. plays Nogueira from Shockwave.
I just want to hear those two have a conversation.
I don't know how such a match would go, but I would love to see it. But Zack Sabre Jr., like it's really impressive that he won this thing, and he had the year where he won the G1, won the IWGP title, and
it's impressive. Who was runner up? Like who's even in contention?
I mean, it was like you didn't have that major pushed Japanese star. Like it wasn't going to go to a Kaito Kiyomiya, with all due respect. I guess Kiyomiya, like the fact that he is holding the won the N1 as GHC champion, like they could have gone that direction, but obviously did not. And New Japan, like who is your native star that would have been in that type of placement? I mean, there wasn't like that big pushed figure like Naito. He had.
You can classify his year as good.
Yeah. I mean, they obviously felt like, and they do go through like voting and such for these. And Zack Sabre Jr. wins. It was not my expectation, just given precedence in this whole one. Sare won the women's MVP award. Still technically a freelancer, but she had a big match with Mayu Iwatani this past year, and then becoming the first Marigold world champion when she beat Julia for that. She has had she doesn't get a whole lot of press, especially over here. But since leaving WWE, I mean, she has really excelled going back to Japan and has been one of the top female performers in the entire industry this year. Best match was Yota Tsuji against Hiroki Goto in the New Japan Cup final, which I went back to check my notes. I was like, okay, Yota Tsuji and Hiroki Goto, like, it did not jump out at me as like a match of the year, but that is what they went with here. I guess somewhat symbolic in Yota Tsuji getting a big win and then weeks later lost to Naito at Sakura Genesis. Best tag team was the Saito brothers, who are being built, like All Japan is building these as this new sort of cornerstone tag team. They just won the Real World Tag League as tag champions in All Japan. So I could see this one making sense. They're an odd team. I'm starting to sense like their appeal in Japan. They are homegrown, like they came out of the All Japan dojo system, and they have their unique abilities. But I don't know if everyone is completely sold on these two. But they are certainly putting all steam behind these two in All Japan. Outstanding performance was Yuma Anzai, who was the youngest Triple Crown holder in history this year, winning the belt at the age of 24 when he beat Katsuhiko Nakajima and held the belt for 5 months. And I mean, he had a really great year with matches with Kento Miyahara, Hideki Suzuki, Ryuki Honda, and it's going to be for years to come will be a major star for All Japan. Like it's Kento Miyahara and Yuma Anzai sort of as two of the cornerstones of the company. Fighting Spirit Award went to Kaito Kiyomiya. We went over his year. And then the Technique Award for Shinya Aoki, freelancer who spent a lot of time with DDT this year. Most of the year, he was in DDT. He won the KOD Openweight Championship. And the only man who can say that he has bookended his year, starting it off in January by submitting former UFC fighter John Lineker for one championship, and in his most recent match was a no ropes, barbed wire, and giant electric explosive bat death match involving Atsushi Onita in a 6-man from this past weekend. So that's a range for this year and screams technique, and Shinya Aoki getting that one. And then we had best newcomer Oleg Boltin, competing in his first G1 where he got 8 points, current never openweight 6-man champion with Tanahashi and Yano. And I guess this was not obviously his debut year, but this was his first year really pushed. And I thought this guy has made great improvements this year. I think he way over-delivered in the G1 against people's expectations. Like there was a lot of skepticism about him in the G1, and I think that he is someone that I think had a very, very good year.
Yeah, at least seeing him in the G1, I think clearly somebody you could hopefully build around, at least looking at, foreigners that you could potentially see as main eventers in the future, provided he sticks around.
Future MVP, Way. Foreigner Oleg Boltin.
Well, that barrier has been broken. Yeah.
All right. So last thing here is TNA is back with their final special of the year on Friday. I want you to just go through this card before we chat with you next on Friday night. But they will be at Center Stage in Atlanta. Nick Nemeth against AJ Francis for the TNA title. Masha Slamovich against Tasha Steelz for the Knockouts belt. The Hardys against Eddie Edwards and Brian Myers in a tables match for the tag titles. Moose, who is now the X Division champion after beating Speedball Mike Bailey. So Moose's gimmick now is just wrestling X Division guys. And he's a great base for these guys. The Speedball match was incredible. So he will take on Kushida with the title on the line. Jordan Grace facing Rosemary. Ace Austin against Trent Seven was added today. And then the pre-show has Jonathan Gresham against Frankie Kazarian and Leon Slater against JDC. So that's coming up Friday. John Cena will have coverage on the site of Final Resolution. And it is, I think, your usual TNA fare, and I am more curious to see what kind of quote unquote impact they can create going into that January pay-per-view, which is their next major show. It's TNA is kind of like they go up and down, but they also hit like just a level of consistency where it's good shows, but you don't always get a a ton of word of mouth out of TNA on a week-to-week basis, unless they do something crazy.
Do you see anybody leaving after, like, in the near future for the company?
I think there's definitely that thought with Josh Alexander, whose deal is up in February. I mean, Speedball is all but he's pretty much gone at this point. Yeah, I do see.
What about Jordan Grace?
Jordan Grace is another one that, based on, when her deal is up, I think she's certainly someone that they're going to be after. Like, that is where TNA is going to be, where things are right now, and that truly is going to be the sort of lasting effects of this crossover deal between WWE and TNA is when these deals are up, naturally there's going to be interest here in your Joe Hendrys, your Jordan Graces, and that is going to be a role TNA is going to be in, where I think a lot of times it's going to be a place where you can get young up-and-comers that haven't been exposed on television, and for reclamation projects that are looking for creative freedom and a place that seems to have like a pretty good locker room vibe for most, and you do get a chance to really get pushed. Like, an AJ Francis is not having a main event of a pay-per-view in too many companies, but here, he's a pushed heel, and but there is going to be a lot of that turnover. Like, Masha Slamovich to me is like a can't miss for any of the big companies to go after as well. Like, she is terrific and has been terrific for a long time in TNA and Game Changer. So anyway, that's Friday night on TNA Plus. Final thing we will note is that Thursday, it's Rewind-A-Way, Knock at the Cabin. And what did I do last weekend? I decided to get ahead of things, Way. I said, you know what? It's going to be a busy week. I better watch this now. So on like Saturday afternoon, I rented Knock at the Cabin on Prime Video. Accidentally charged my wife's credit card by mistake, and then watched the movie. And then yesterday, I go to new releases on Netflix, and there is Knock at the Cabin, and I could have screamed. It was right there.
This is why I wait until the very last second to watch.
I'm never watching any of this in advance. I totally got effed by trying to get ahead of things. I could not believe this movie showed up on Netflix. Like, this week.
Obviously, the people at Netflix are big fans of Rewind-A-Way. They must be Post Wrestling Cafe patrons at this point. They want to get all caught up before the WWE deal. So they knew we were about to review this movie, decided to make the deal with the people, M. Night himself, to get this on their service just for all of our listeners. Yes.
You haven't started this, have you?
I'm like, I think 30 minutes in. I'm enjoying it so far.
Okay, well, it's not a long watch. I watched it in one sitting on the weekend. So we are going to talk about this on Thursday. We will discuss what to make of what was this kid's name in Harry Potter?
Ron Weasley.
This was Ron Weasley. So we are going to see the transformation of Ron Weasley from Hogwarts into a racist homophobe in Knock at the Cabin.
Oh, I didn't know he was a racist.
I shouldn't paint that. I don't think he was racist. I think it was just homophobic, as I recall.
I didn't even know
you're
that.
not there yet. I'm so sorry.
Oh, spoiler.
Okay, sorry. Well, you'll learn more. Knock at the Cabin Thursday. Is this Dave Bautista's greatest role? Is this the best movie he's been attached to? Is it not? Is this movie overhyped? We're going to answer all of these questions. Save your family or save humanity. Make the choice. Knock at the Cabin.
Yeah, and maybe in your territory, now available on Netflix.
Yeah. Or
if
VPN
not,
is your friend.
Yeah.
Don't go to Prime Video. They'll squeeze you. So anyway, that's coming up on Thursday. Friday night, we're live with Rewind to SmackDown. We'll take your calls. We'll preview Saturday night's main event. And then late night on Saturday, Way and I will get together yet again as Way just is exhausted by John Pollock. And we will review Saturday night's main event after it concludes, and whether the Winged Eagle Championship makes a one-night-only appearance around the waist of Cody Rhodes.
That is the question. That is the question that has been posed after the teaser video posted by WWE today with Paul Levesque giving Cody Rhodes a case containing
a flashlight inside.
yeah, whatever. Yeah, for one night only, we're going to get something, and the big tease is the Winged Eagle, or at least the big expectation is the Winged Eagle. Now,
I hope it's the hardcore title.
Would it shine like that? It's not much gold in it anymore.
You know, the last time in wrestling, I saw someone open up a case with light protruding out. It was the TNA branding that was returning after Frankie Kazarian rescued it from the ocean.
Is that right? Are you sure it wasn't the egg, the Faberge egg?
The Fabergé egg.
Oh, Fabergé egg.
Yeah, we're going back a few years ago when a whole Survivor Series was built around that goddamn egg.
Speaking of the Winged Eagle, Davey Portman, who I believe will be back on Up Next following his month-long sabbatical, enjoying much deserved time off over in the UK, had a great tweet today. Why do we call it the Winged Eagle belt? Don't all eagles have wings?
I don't think they do, to be quite honest. I don't think all of them do. Yeah, I don't
What do you
think
mean?
that is the case.
There are eagles with no wings?
There are, I don't know.
No, there aren't.
There may not be.
What do they have then? Just arms?
So we should call this the Eagle Championship.
I mean, I guess, yeah. You actually think there are eagles with no wings?
There's. I'm looking this up right now.
Show me an eagle without wings. I need to see this.
I'll send it to you because a bunch of stuff just came up here.
Yeah, like a photo.
What about
shot.
bald eagles? Do bald eagles have wings?
I think any bird technically has a wing.
It's not the wing. It's the tipped. The tip at the end. Okay. I
Talons?
I've exhausted this discussion. You know who's going to Saturday night's main event to find out for himself?
Who?
Davey Portman.
Okay, please ask Davey if you show up.
Yes. All right. Maybe that question will be answered. Maybe Cody will address that right away.
The
All
presser. Davey, get credentialed. Go to the presser. Ask this.
All right. On to Winter is Coming. We go. In Kansas City at the T-Mobile Center in front of 4,020, according to WrestleTix. And we are opening up. Winter is Coming with Jon Moxley and Pac against Jay White and Orange Cassidy. Yuta and Marina Shafir are in the corner. And Moxley tells Shivani that he has given Wheeler Yuta a stay of execution. So does that mean this man is on the chopping block?
I guess so. Yeah. So once day ends, another begins.
I guess possible. We will find out what the future is for Wheeler Yuta. They brawled around the ring. Christian and the Patriarchy were sitting up in the upper deck area with Christian just holding on to his contract. Just wanted some seats to tonight's show. Orange Cassidy is holding on to his throat, which the announcers suspect could be lasting damage from, quote, that chemical. So man still of all these injuries we see that come and go and big stunts, it's the chemical down the throat that is going to be his Achilles heel throughout the rest of his career.
When you say chemical, I think that's enough for most of us who, what are we, chemists here? We don't know. Like, there are a lot of chemicals.
Excalibur did not have a specific chemical. It was just that chemical.
Maybe it was vinegar and bleach.
Maybe it was just a warning shot from Jon Moxley. Like, next time, it's going to be cyanide. But anyway, he held his throat. Moxley and White then fought over the guardrail. Crowd was getting quite into this. And then Orange Cassidy gets the hot tag, and this place goes wild. And his comeback was awesome. I mean, he's hitting these satellite DDTs. He bites Moxley, diving DDT off the top, and then a stun dog onto Pac. Manages the beach break after Moxley is taken out of the ring. Yuta distracts, and then Orange Cassidy manages to knock both Shafir and Yuta off the aprons, landing the orange punch to Moxley. And they are just at this peak in the match when all of a sudden Hangman Page jumps Moxley in the ring, causing the disqualification, shoving Orange away, and then they get into it. And in the aftermath, we will talk about all the damage caused among these challengers. But I thought this match was going very strong, and I thought Cassidy was great toward the end here. And then we had the Hangman run-in, which was kind of necessitated for what you were going to be announcing after.
But was it though? You know,
it was their reason to at least keep Hangman involved here.
I think, yes, it's understandable why they would do this.
And they don't want to beat the Death Riders, at all cost. They do not want to beat these two. Unless
if this was done like rarely, like it was in the early days of AEW, I don't think I'd have issue with it. But because it is now a talking point that AEW is no, there's a clamoring for people, to see AEW not book as many unclean finishes or DQ finishes or count whatever, like basically like cop out finishes. I didn't think it was necessary to have one here, because it's a topic of discussion. Because I just think it gives some fuel to some of those criticisms. Like Pac could have taken the pin just fine here. He's not a champion. Or you could have put Yuta in this match. Okay, give further like reason for Moxley to want to execute him by him losing here. I think also
I'll tell you what this needed. What this needed, Hangman needed to beat somebody to earn a spot in this match, because I think that is like such an egregious like way to get into a title match where we're watching.
It negates the Jay White feud, really. Like he lost several times to him and still gets the
twice,
title match.
2 pay-per-views in a row he lost to them. Yeah. Cassidy just lost. Like Jay White is the only person that has a claim to be challenging for this title. So I would have much preferred that they at least have Hangman somewhere to give this spot. And the way that they do this is it's like Moxley just grants them all title matches, which I thought made little sense.
Yeah, I do think in general the any baby faces opposing the Death Riders need some solid momentum behind them, and I think like at least having a win here in a tag team setting would have at least provided that to either an Orange Cassidy or Jay White. And then you could have still had Paige come in, do the attack, and maybe lead to some sort of justification for Moxley to give them the title shot. But beyond that, I thought Orange's intensity, as always, is excellent. He feels like he's a character when he's wrestling that's really grown over the past two months of story build. I think otherwise, because of the finish, you can't really say like this was a memorable or even like match that was worth watching.
It was building really, really well. White attacks Paige, and then we get an orange punch that misses Hangman and nails Jay White. So it leads to everyone laying out each other. They're all down. Excalibur wonders what it could be if these three could be on a united front. And the Death Riders attack and just destroy these three. And the crowd, of all the people here, the crowd starts getting on Yuta with F-U Yuta chants. And someone was also bleeding in this, because as Pac left, there was all this blood on his elbow, and I don't know if it was his own blood, but someone was bleeding here at the end. And we can just skip because we go backstage, and this is where Moxley cuts his promo that he's a marked man, and that's the only way to live and feel alive. I don't know if I would agree with that. Like, there's a hit out on you, and that's the only way to live. Living with a knife to your throat, which a trivia answer is how Brock Lesnar justified getting that hideous tattoo was during that time that he was being held to that contract. He felt like he had a knife to his throat. So he said, you know what? What if I got a tattoo of a knife to my throat? And somebody said, yeah, great idea.
Okay.
Anyway, good for him. So he said that this is what's wrong with AEW. All of your egos running wild. And he calls for a fatal 4-way as an early Christmas present, and we had to have Excalibur read Jon Moxley's mind by stating, well, presumably against Orange Cassidy, Jay White, and Hangman Page. And that is our match for World's End. I did not like this setup. I think it was, if anything, it's like these baby faces. I don't think anyone has like a strong belief in any one of these baby faces. I can understand the thought that Jay White is the guy they've built up, that's a lot to expect to carry a pay-per-view with Jon Moxley versus Jay White. I don't know if that, to be quite honest, like the strongest is the guy that I feel they have just not prepared for this main event at all, and that's Hangman Page.
I agree. Like as a match to headline a pay-per-view or to put as the title match on the pay-per-view, I feel more interested in a Mox versus Page than I do with any of the other options. I mean, Orange we've already just been through, and Jay White could get there. He's just, to me, not hot enough yet. But they booked Jay White to beat Page several times, so logically he would make sense. But they must not be confident enough to just do that singles match to head a pay-per-view.
I don't know. If you had Hangman beat this guy, these two in a row. And then he goes in, and you're coming off the stuff with Swerve. I mean, that's a pretty hot challenger at that point. I would say Moxley and Hangman, like that feels like a big pay-per-view main event if they had made that decision back in September.
But is Page really a babyface? Does he need to be a strong?
I don't think it
babyface?
matters at this point. I mean, the audience is like, the audience has a investment in Hangman Page that I think you can certainly lead into this as this guy that he is begrudgingly fighting on behalf of AEW. He's going for this championship by proxy. He is defending AEW.
I'm a little curious to see how they I don't know if they're actually teasing a union between the three non-Death Riders members here to oppose John Moxley to make us feel like the title change is actually going to happen at this event. That's kind of tough for the baby faces, you know. Hey, like, we're gonna band together as three people to give a handicap, to give us a handicap advantage over the heel. That's a bit of a tough sell for the.
And
baby
the heel
faces.
Called for the match. The heel put himself in this position.
A bit odd, but quality wise, like, they're four amazing wrestlers, so you know the in-ring quality of the four-way is likely to be excellent. I'm not sold on the story.
You could take any one of these combinations, and it's a great match. Like, that is like there isn't like a negative option when it comes to just the pure quality of it.
We should also mention the heavy teasing of Christian Cage involved in all of this, more so than previous pay-per-views. So they're really wanting you to think of that as an element to all.
Yeah,
this.
he addresses everyone from the suite, stating, "I am literally and figuratively looking down on you," which was the phrase verbatim that Gunther just used on Monday. And he reacts to the four-way announcement, claiming that White and Page cost him the title at Full Gear. Cassidy, you're just a pissant. And Moxley has what I want. I'm going to be waiting on the other side, and I won't miss this time. I'm going to send Moxley back to rock bottom. I'm going to make him hear that voice telling him to go have a drink and send him back to rehab while I rehab the AEW title. And as he's backing up, Michael Hook Myers appears in the window and punches through the glass door, which I hope this man did not have a Bill Goldberg moment insisting this was real glass.
Well, he had a cast on.
Okay, in that case, nothing could go wrong. So he cuts through the door and attacks Christian, puts him in the red rum, and then goes to throw him over the balcony, to which Shivani says... That was a great Dynamite moment. Shivani was cheering for this man to fall to his demise here on this balcony. And that was our segment. So I really feel this is... They really seem to have tapered off from the like Nick Wayne and Hook that I would see... Like maybe Hook and Cage is you do one at Hammerstein and then maybe Cage and Hook at the pay-per-view.
Sure. Okay. I could see that. Why did Christian tell Nick Wayne and... Kip Sabian to leave the box earlier? Did we ever find out?
Oh, I didn't even. Maybe so. It wouldn't be 3-on-1, but they did come back. They eventually rushed back to help.
They came back to save him. I know why he asked them to leave, so we could get this, Hook versus Christian 1-on-1 thing. But they never revealed why he asked them to leave in the first place.
Maybe he wanted them to go grab him a hot dog or something. Maybe he was hungry.
That was what the commentators were joking.
Okay.
Do you need three people to get food? One
it
person
depends. I mean, sometimes they don't give you a tray. Could use an extra set of hands.
They didn't even come back with food. They even failed at that.
Well, they heard the glass break and they ran. They were like either
so they're just waiting in line for 10 minutes. Failed. Mother Wayne must have still been waiting for the food.
Like either that's Hook with his cast or Steve Austin just signed.
At these boxes, don't you get food? They had food. They had like popcorn.
Dude, were they in it was? It was the T-Mobile Center, man. I don't know how. I don't know if they were catered.
They had popcorn. He threw them into popcorn.
Okay, well, they got the comp popcorn then. Would you want to be scarfing down that popcorn? It's probably loaded with salt.
No, I wouldn't.
We skimmed over because of all this, but in the middle of this was the latest Bandido vignette, and man, this was like a High Plains Drifter where he just arrives into town. And the locals are there and want to place him under arrest. And we can do this the easy way or the hard way. And then the jacket comes off, the six-pack is out, and dude puts on his lucha specials onto these four cowboys, including the 24-plex. These are some of the best vignettes that AEW has produced. I love these. They are so good. I think they've done such an excellent job in these two vignettes with Bandido, and this one was even better than last week's.
Yeah, really excellent. I think they're like the right amount of ridiculousness for professional wrestling. Like they're not taking itself too seriously. It's like it's Bandido in a Western in the freezing snowy cold in it, like without a shirt, and doing wrestling moves in this like old Western fight. This was awesome. Now I hope this wasn't the last one. It kind of felt like it was the last one, and I'm almost a little disappointed if it is, because I feel like, you know, like these are great, but man, they're great when you can have them for at least like several weeks so that everybody's aware. Hopefully people are aware enough after just even these two, but man, these have been excellent.
Next week he's got to light the saloon and the whole town on fire and then just leave on the horse.
I just want to see him do wrestling moves to everybody in the town.
Yeah. Well,
a lot of guys like do like the gun taunt now. I don't know if you realize in AEW. Okay, obviously there's Kenny, the Bang Bang Gang, Bandido, Ricochet. Everybody's got gun signs, you know?
Well, I mean, maybe that's where they turn the corner, is introducing firearms as weapons.
Are we there? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. They could have this could all build into All in Texas, where you can carry.
Sure. Yeah.
Will Ospreay and Claudio Castagnoli in the Gold League. Claudio's at 6 points. Ospreay is at 3. And these two, their second singles match after they had a match back in April that Ospreay won. And we get right into it, where Ospreay connects with a standing Spanish fly and then the space flying tiger drop to the floor. Cutter gets caught with the uppercut. And then Ospreay's hand gets beaten on. He's also grabbing his left shoulder. They are putting over Kyle Fletcher as the hottest wrestler at the moment in AEW. And Nigel coins Kyle's fans as the Fletchlights.
I think like appropriate for Nigel. Yeah.
Claudio is going from sharpshooter to crossface back to sharpshooter, and then Ospreay gets out with a Rana off the rope, sets up for the hidden blade, but runs into a boot. And then after the Sky Twister pressed, Claudio gets out of the way, lands another European uppercut. He's lit up Ospreay with these uppercuts, ducks a clothesline, and Ospreay lands the Cutter, and Claudio rolls out to the floor. The hidden blade then gets caught with a pop-up uppercut, and then Claudio hits his giant lariat that he's been winning all of his matches with. Ospreay kicks out, and as he goes for the neutralizer, it's countered with a jackknife cover, and Ospreay wins in 13-26. Both men tied with 6 points in the Gold League.
It was a good match. You know, how could it not be with these two? But because of the story, this was more of a neutered Will Ospreay performance where he was selling more than showing off his usual offense. So if I would say for most people, maybe like you had more of a typical Will Ospreay match in mind, I think you might have left this a bit disappointed. It's sensible to do a monster versus like smaller guy match here. I do feel though, too many of these C2 matches already have followed the same template where they give the losing wrestler like basically 90% of the shine in the match, and then have the person getting beaten up come in with like a quick pin out of nowhere. And all of this is done obviously to protect the losing wrestler. But I do think it's being relied upon a little too much already in this tournament. And I think they should just not really be afraid to have guys just lose straight, clean, you know, once in a while, especially when it's like a Will Ospreay.
I don't disagree on a larger front that I think there's a lot of that to the match structure that they lean upon, and whether that is run-ins, distractions, it seems like the focus is more so the losing end and protecting them versus the other person gaining from getting that victory over the loser and advancing. And we have seen enough examples where I think you can tell dual stories of a win and a loss having a consequence for both because they're going in opposite directions, and it makes the match feel more important. And especially in this kind of a setting, my thought on the Continental Classic so far, not so much. I did like this match quite a bit. To me though, I think there's just too much of a reliance on, well, it's the Continental Classic, as though this is this long time established tournament that you can rely on the history and significance of. This thing's a year old, and I think that there's too much of this. It's the tournament, so that's the importance. But I'm not hearing why it's important. I'm not sensing that that urgency that is attached to all of these people. Like, we got it a bit tonight with Darby. I appreciated that, of like him wanting to win this tournament. But I think that stuff, like a Darby segment we'll get into later, that to me is the stuff that should be part and parcel with all of these great matches, but also like the desires of all these people of what this tournament would mean for you.
So at the center of all that, I think, is the problem of the Continental Championship being poorly defined. There's really no real thing that makes it coveted, the way a world championship is. It's just another secondary championship. And you're talking about guys like an Ospreay that had been going for the bigger championships in the past. So it's kind of hard to understand, unless they have a specific reason, which they haven't told us, why they would want to go for this secondary championship. Even Darby doesn't really seem to care about the title itself. He's just in it for the tournament. A tournament like this involved and this sort of prolonged really should be for a title shot at the world champion. And not just a title shot, but a title shot at a significant venue. Ideally, this is the type of thing that gives somebody a title shot at All In. But instead, they're giving that to the Owen, which is fine. But I think you need something of equal value for something as big as the C2 if you want to make the C2 feel like it's an important tournament.
Something that you could easily do is just whoever is holding that Continental Championship at the end of the year gets an automatic title shot. Anytime they choose, and
like a briefcase type of thing.
It's just they get to name their shot, something like that. And I know you sort of have that going at the moment with Christian, but I mean that to me is more.
How did Christian win his? I forget. How did he? Was it a gauntlet?
Christian
thing?
won the call your shot deal. The
Battle
ladder
Royal?
match.
Oh, ladder match. See, yeah, because I think that gimmick, like a Money in the Bank gimmick, would be way better coming off of the C2. Like the winner should get that briefcase,
I think when you have the international title, the Continental Championship, these titles are sort of interchangeable to most people, and you're not clamoring this Continental Championship is this career-making move for someone for elevation's sake. Then we had Claudio attack him further with the neutralizer, grabs a chair when Darby Allin runs out to chase Claudio away, and Ospreay and Darby nod at one another as they will have their tournament match next Wednesday in Washington. Renee spoke to Ricochet about facing Brody King. This is why he came to AEW for the competition. It's a first-time match, but Brody isn't Ricochet, and definitely adding more of a a cocky demeanor that you've seen.
He did the Jadakiss laugh.
He did, yes. I'm glad you spotted that. I was just about to note.
Oh, sorry.
And then he pulled out MVP's card, saying, "I hold all the cards tonight."
Seems like
there was no MVP. There was no Hurt Syndicate period on the show.
No. So obviously he's teasing him joining the Hurt Syndicate.
Subtle.
But so he's teasing a heel turn. But I guess he just he's confident. He has confidence just from holding the card.
Were they going to be backup for him? Because he nearly lost this match in many instances, and they did not seem to have his back. Or I didn't know if he had the cards all.
I don't think he needs to join. I think he just needs the physical card. It's like a like a security blanket.
At least give him like a button to push. You're calling for assistance or something. Something to contact them. MJF shows up in the parking lot and arrives at the arena. Renee interviews Matt Cardona, who is where he belongs in AEW. And this guy is going to be, I think this guy has to somehow have a big role on the GCW Hammerstein show. I mean, if he could win this ROH championship and then go to GCW, maybe they'll salvage something out of this.
It's honestly the most interesting thing about this ROH show to me is Matt Cardona's involvement and the fact that he is now headlining a Tony Khan show while still being an active GCW performer at the Hammerstein Ballroom. GCW will have a wrestler at at Hammerstein, I guess before the GCW event. So, but how's that going to work out? I'm fascinated. I don't think he's going to win the title from Jericho. Like, Jericho is holding on to this championship for a reason. It's still really interesting to see Cardona in this spot, though, and prominently featured on AEW television right now.
Yeah.
But Cardona is like not really playing any sort of like, King of the Indies type of character. He's just more of a standard babyface here.
Yeah, and I think it's kind of the level of match you want for a final battle. Like it's two names, and it does have. I mean, it's the only thing they're promoting on AEW programming, which is probably like it's. ROH is this weird balancing act for them where I think if they went too hard on the ROH stuff, like you just don't have room to be promoting yet another show. And they're promoting a match that you can stream with your Honor Club subscription. Right. I think the balance has been fine. Mm-hmm. And he's going to challenge Brian Keith on Rampage. Adam Cole against Kyle O'Reilly. Cole comes out, and then O'Reilly is getting ready with Renee when Taven and Bennett come in, and Taven says, "You don't need to do this. This guy is playing you by making you guys fight while he isn't even here." He being the guy we just saw pull up in the last segment in the parking lot.
Yeah. Or was he referring?
He's referring to MJF.
Not Strong, right?
No, he said he's playing you guys by making you fight each other. Mm-hmm. So Bennett says, "We're still family." And Riley says, "We should have thought about that before one of our brothers was hurt," referring to Roderick Strong. So Kyle O'Reilly is still pissed. So this is their first singles match since TakeOver August 2021.
Wow.
First AEW singles match between these two. Kyle works the arm, and he's controlling the match until he runs into a super kick, and a Panama Sunrise is stopped with a knee to the body, and Kyle comes off the apron with a knee strike, and then the bombs away, misses, and he ducks the boom. The follow-up lands, but he can't capitalize. The two trade kicks, and then as Kyle goes for his armbar, he transitions to the ankle lock, and as soon as Cole reaches the rope, he immediately lets go. And I thought that was a great observation by Nigel, the idea that he knows Adam's got a weak ankle, and therefore he's not trying to maim the guy. He just wants to beat him, although he would repeatedly go to this ankle lock later. So I don't know if that was an accidental story or not, but I like the attention to that detail. So Adam comes back. He goes for the Panama Sunrise. Again, Kyle grabs the ankle, and Cole super kicks him on the floor. MJF shows up, misses with a ring shot, so Cole super kicks him, and Kyle goes back to the ankle lock, and this time Cole counters it to an inside cradle, pinning Kyle in 10 minutes, 50 seconds as MJF leaves through the crowd. Bennett and Taven come out, and Cole offers his hand to Kyle, but Kyle says, "No, man, I'm going to go check on my brother." And Kyle storms off. So Adam Cole and MJF at World's End.
We're getting
now. Yes.
Oh, man, they're not going to change it now. I mean, come on. We got the graphic and everything, right? Or we're going to, I'm sure. Wrestling was really good here, or at least, nothing I could really criticize at all. But considering the history and the TV time invested in the match, I thought the crowd was really cold for it.
I don't think the crowd ever I honestly thought the hottest this crowd was, and that it was for Orange Cassidy's comeback, and then I think the DQ kind of just leveled things off, and then it really wasn't until Mina Shirakawa in the closing minutes that they really got big into one specific performer. They were active, but it was that was a struggle in this match. For
this match, I thought they came the most alive when MJF came in, and that everybody I think might have been expecting it because of the tease and
not Matt Taven. He was stunned.
Maybe he didn't watch the whole show, but you got your distraction finish here. So Cole gets the match with MJF. Kyle is disappointed, and why is Kyle disappointed?
Because Roderick got hurt. And it's Adam Cole's fault that Roderick got hurt. Because Roderick took the match ahead of Adam Cole because Cole didn't win his 3 matches. Roderick did. Yeah. And this is Adam Cole's fault.
Okay, so Kyle's whole point of winning the Dynamite Battle Royal was so that he could get the match with MJF to avenge Roderick Strong, right?
Yes.
And he's disappointed that he can't do it anymore.
I guess, yeah.
But why? But like Adam Cole's going to do it, so.
Well, he's disappointed in himself, and he's not happy with Adam Cole. So he's got a lot on his shoulders.
Okay, I can understand being disappointed in yourself. Yeah.
We go backstage, and if you watch Collision, Cash Wheeler and Dax Harwood, they got interrupted because they had to stop an attempted murder by the Death Riders, and they talk about Fight for the Fallen in Asheville, North Carolina, their hometown that has been hit very hard this year. And it's going to be a very important show because it's the first simulcast on TBS and Max. And that show requires a big match. But they don't tell us what this big match is, so tune in and find out. Because this Saturday, you Death Riders, I want you to show up this Saturday in that ring.
Mm-hmm.
So they're going to go all the way to Collision in the hopes that the Death Riders meet them in the ring. So that's coming up on Saturday.
I would assume you will find out what that big match is after this confrontation.
Yeah, I'm thinking it's going to be potentially like the Death Riders against FTR and Adam Copeland in Asheville.
Oh, I didn't even consider it. You think he's ready?
It sounds like he's said as much that like he's about ready to come back.
That is big. That's excellent.
FTR and Adam Copeland have been really like on the ground with all this like relief efforts there. That to me would be the match to bring him back.
I can't imagine a better motivation for Adam Copeland to get ready for it than a show like that. So I think that actually would be a wonderful headliner. So great, and it gets them now involved into this whole Death Rider business, which makes the Death Rider takeover feel that much more complete.
So maybe Adam Cole can lose the 6-man. Also lose maybe a pay-per-view match in there, and that should get him a perfect opportunity at the title, I would think. That could set the path.
Well,
I think he should. 2. It should be against the same opponent. I think he should lose to the same guy.
I think he should reveal. There should be a sneak attack. We don't know who did it, who took out Adam Cole, and Cole should just reveal that it was himself.
You could go that way too. I'm a fan of self-inflicted
Max
damage.
And Adam Cole should reveal that they've been actually working together this whole time, and they're both the devil.
Oh my God!
Our 3-year plan worked.
We gotcha.
We're the ones truly taking over AEW, trying to take this place.
Oh,
no, God, I'm kidding.
The New York Minute is next with Jericho and Brian Keith. Keith accepts the match with Cardona for Friday, and we've got a contract signing on ROH on Thursday. I really don't have any issues with these. Like I will say you could certainly argue that is this a real effective Chris Jericho? Your mileage may vary.
Because you're talking essentially now about like an online streaming service, like without a TV home. I think just having a name like Chris Jericho attached to it automatically feels like it's really good for Ring of Honor. Like it's getting them Dynamite TV time, so I think it's good. And what else would you have Jericho do, I guess, on the show right now?
I have no issue with like Jericho on the show, Jericho pushing this ROH stuff. Like if this yields a result for ROH, it's a major win for them. And I think you want to have that promotion of ROH on your show, especially if you're actively shopping it. I would just look at Jericho as someone you would assume is among the highest paid guys in the company. And like, are we too far removed from like 2018, 2019, 2020 Jericho?
Yes.
That you can't, like, that to me would be a super effective Chris Jericho, but I think we are too far removed from that. And I just don't know if this learning tree Jericho, like, I don't think it has clicked with a lot of people. And it seems like, well, that's the point. It's not supposed to work. Like, okay, well, job well done. I just don't think this is the most captive version of a Chris Jericho that they are trying to use as this tool for Ring of Honor. I just don't know if this.
But what do you suggest that they do? Because I don't think it's their choice to not have Jericho be as effective as he was in 2018. He's just not. Like, they haven't found the thing. It's not like this is, like what this is like arguably.
Would you just continue with this learning tree? Is this learning tree? Is there enough entertainment to this that this is a character worth pursuing?
Or reboot him again? Is that the alternative? Because because I don't know how many.
Yeah, those would be the alternatives. Yeah.
Yeah, because this was already a reboot of whatever he was doing beforehand, and I'm not sure. I don't know if there's really a place in the top mix for Chris Jericho right now when you have so many other guys, that are kind of waiting for that spot that the audience might be a bit more interested in. So I think
are you driven to watch Final Battle this year?
Maybe I'm more interested than other years, because this is at least different and it's hitting more of a bigger audience in terms of attention than maybe like what was last year's match? Eddie Kingston and Claudio? Something like that?
That sounds right, yes.
Yeah.
And the year before that, you had the big FTR Briscoes.
Like
blow
Kingston
off.
Claudio, it's good, but that's the level of match I'm getting every single week on Dynamite. This is more of a special attraction, and I think having Jericho attached to it, at least increases the exposure to maybe the type of fan who, I don't know, might not typically check out Ring of Honor.
If that's the reaction by enough people and they're curious enough, this is one year where this show, it'll have these ROH shows, the pay-per-views, they're always very good shows. But this is on this one match that they are utilizing.
Yeah.
That is the match that is you are buying or not buying this show off of them. By buying, I mean,
yeah, it's really
ordering
tough
the
because
service.
it's you're trying to do so many things at once, but ideally you would give as much attention to whatever Athena's doing, on Ring of Honor as well, because I think that will satisfy the people looking for more serious, or at least I don't know, something else other than this Chris Jericho Matt Cardona match. But they only wish to afford so much time, right? And they can only afford so much time.
I don't even disagree with that notion. I think you pick your main event and utilize it in a portion of your show when you're hammering all this other stuff.
Yeah, Sino, just to correct me, says Athena versus Billy Starks was the main event last year at Final Battle, and Eddie Kingston fought Anthony Henry. Well, I mean, yeah, I think the point still stands. This Jericho Cardona match is getting way more attention than Athena and Billy Starks, at least to a Dynamite audience.
Shivani did a sit-down interview with Darby Allin. His quest is never over, and the Death Riders are slowly chipping away at what makes AEW what it is. Danielson was the backbone. Many young guys are making a living in pro wrestling for the first time because of AEW, and they might be scared to step up. But violence doesn't bother me. Pain doesn't bother me. And he then punches himself in the mouth, causing himself to bleed. But that doesn't bother him. He says what bothers him is people not doing anything about it. Claudio he says that the Continental Classic is everything that is right with AEW, and that is why I need to win this. This is the same company that gave Jon Moxley's career a second shot, that allowed Sting to go out on his own terms, and gave Darby a chance in pro wrestling. And so this man left with a potentially fractured jaw, but got his message across.
He did, yeah. I really like especially that Darby gave us a reason for winning the C2, and that it's attached to his overall story with the Death Riders. From my interpretation, he's saying that he wants to win it, I guess, to prove to Mox that there's still people with passion that exist in this company, and that this company still represents passion. I think that's what he's trying to say, and that's counter to Mox's criticisms that this is a roster that no longer is hungry. I do take some issue with Darby saying Mox is forgetting that this is the company that gave Mox a chance. I'd argue Mox has never lost sight of that, and in fact he cares about that so much that he wants to reboot this company to take it back to that ideal. So I was a little confused by those two sort of contradicting points from Darby here. On the one hand, it feels like he does understand Mox's reasons for the Death Rider takeover. On the other hand, I don't know if he does, and I couple this with Orange Cassidy's promos too, when he was having that match with Mox, where I didn't necessarily feel like even Cassidy was directly addressing Mox's points about why they're taking over. And I also add, Mox hasn't been completely clear. He's still been very vague about why exactly the Death Riders are taking over. This is all to say that if I think the talent are giving us confusing messages, then how is your typical audience member supposed to feel? At this point, we're really just to kind of like, we're just accepting the Death Riders want to take over because they're just evil. And that's not really it. Like there's a deeper message there. I just wish like they, by this point, would have been a bit more clear about what it is, or at least given us a little bit more indication.
Their message has never been antagonistic. Their actions have been with what they did to Danielson and with
what is
what
their
they
message
did
to you?
Cassidy.
Why
It's
are they
what
doing
you just outlined. It's John Moxley stating that this company has gotten away from where it was. And the fact is that a lot of these younger guys have not stepped up. They've let egos get in the way. They are not concerned about helping this company. And like, I think that him and Darby are conveying almost like parallel messages in their like mission statements. And the fact is, I think like there's more of a reticence toward your baby faces who are the ones arguing this place is great. This is why would we want to change this? And a more increasing percentage of your fan base is of the opinion that this place has changed and they would want to change it back. Like if you were to quiz AEW fans, are you enjoying this product today versus the exact same product 2 years ago? Which would you rather be watching on a weekly basis? How many are opting for today's AEW product versus the one of 2 years ago?
Sure. Yeah, that could exist. And
that's what John Moxley's message is. That to me is, it's like, that's more in sync with a growing amount of your audience that is still sticking around, but is at odds with where this company has changed.
It presents a challenge for the baby faces to have to come up with, I think, something that you want to cheer them on for, you know, when that alternatively, I think it might serve them to like maybe alter Mox's sort of like motivations a little more to be a little more deranged than something that sounds actually very like reasonable, you know, in order for us to boo him more. But more importantly, you require the baby faces to come up with a philosophy that adequately counters Mox's reasoning in a way that makes more sense logically. And we haven't had that from the baby faces yet.
Next up was our Gold League match between Ricochet and Brody King, both with 3 points. And Brody King took a ton of this match, which, yeah, it really does kind of follow this same kind of.
But the result was totally different here. This did completely, like, I think, change the template, or at least by the end.
Well, it was all Brody King, but like the audience is garnering more and more support for Brody King. They're getting behind Brody, and as Ricochet eventually snaps Brody King on the top rope and he's making his comeback, he goes for a springboard, gets stopped with a chop in midair, and then put up onto the turnbuckle. Ricochet sneaks out, DDTing King onto the exposed buckle and sweeping the legs out, and we start getting boos for Ricochet as he calls for the spirit gun to the back of the head, then one to the face, and he pins Brody in 12 minutes and 46 seconds, creating a three-way tie with Ricochet, Claudio, and Ospreay with 6 points apiece. But definitely like playing to these boos and against like one of your biggest baby faces in Brody King of the House of Black.
Yeah, so I guess it didn't completely change it because I guess the person getting beaten up did win. But it wasn't a quick roll-up, John. You know, I thought this was actually...
He did win with his finisher. It wasn't just the flash pin.
Like, I thought it actually was a pretty, like, in the end, sort of a, like, dominant end for Ricochet, even though he got, like, beaten up for a good chunk of the match. I thought it was a really interesting match because Ricochet came in here essentially, like, as an underdog against the bigger guy. Much of the match was Ricochet selling, but because King was so entertaining in his dominance, and because King actually is a babyface who works like a very fan-friendly style, the crowd turned Ricochet. Like, they turned him heel. You know, so I mean, I think it's probably by design, you know, based off of like the MVP tease earlier. But I thought Ricochet's cockiness came across pretty well, and I thought King was just really excellent. You know, the heavy offense, and Ricochet took and sold it really excellently.
Yeah, I enjoyed this, and I think like this was probably the desired reaction they were going with as well. Just the way they have like set the stage for Ricochet and with the promo and just like the overall mannerisms towards him. I think this was a desired reaction.
The timing is right for it. I mean, did they always plan for a Ricochet turn to be this soon? I don't know, but this isn't unusual in any company. Guy comes in maybe without that much interest, but the heel turn is what unlocks him because you're no longer cheering, clamoring for cheers. You know, you're coming across more authentic. I think it also helps because Ricochet, to my memory, was never heel in the WWE. Was he? Can you remember? I can't.
I mean, there was like that period, the Dark Ages. Doesn't come to mind.
I can't remember him ever being a heel, or at least not significantly. So I'm kind of interested in seeing
not
that.
WWE, but yes.
Yeah. Like I'm interested in seeing a fresh, different Ricochet than we did.
Then we go to the back. Private Party are joined by Action Andretti, Leo Rush, Layla Gray, and Top Flight. This segment felt like it went on for about an hour.
This seems like it's Private Party's like new Piper's Pit segment. They call it the Vault, or at least like this is where
they spared no expense.
Like this looks like the shittiest party in the world. They couldn't even get a room. This looks like it's just like a gate.
Yeah, we'll take the garage door. Could we get both of our backlights blue and red?
Their budget for this party was like 2 glasses of wine.
Yeah. No, Private Party had like a really fantastic tag title win, but the reign has not exactly cleared a ton of expectation since. So this is, for weeks they have been having issues among the 4 of them. Then last week, Top Flight was eliminated by Rush and Andretti. So this Saturday on Collision, they're going to have a match, and the winning team will get a shot against Private Party. And that's what we've got coming out of this.
I think the whole like Top Flight story has like given us more reason to see, in particular, Darius and Dante's personalities come out, and I think they've improved. You know, so I've been interested in it.
Do you want to get matching jackets like Leo and Action?
Well, in order to be a tag team, John, obviously you need matching glasses and jackets. Yeah, how about a post-wrestling varsity jacket? I got just the jacket for you.
Really? Mm-hmm. Renee spoke with Mercedes Moné and Anna Jay. Moné wasn't sure what state they were in, Missouri or Kansas. And they actually mentioned her match coming up with Hazuki in Long Beach next weekend. And Moné thinks it's cute that Anna Jay went to Japan and then points out how much she had done by the time she was 26, which is the age Anna is. Jay says, "No, you stay here. You're going to hear what I have to say. You are a living legend, and I am the underdog, but I keep proving people wrong. And when you make your first mistake, I'm going to capitalize." And knocks her title belt here. This was the closest physicality we got in a no physicality segment, and she's going to pin her 1, 2, 3 next week in Washington.
Mm-hmm. I feel like this is 2 weeks in a row where I've come off of a Mercedes talking segment positively. I don't know if it's just me, John, but like let's compare though.
It's a close 1-2 race though. Which segment had the better backdrop though? For the Private Party and the Vault, or this?
Oh, this felt like a way better party than the Private Party.
This looked so much better than in the garage with a Private Party. Yeah, anyway, sorry for cutting you off.
But like, I don't know how you feel, but like, I feel like Mercedes, ever since she's maybe escaped the Willow story, or sorry, the Camille story, and I'm not even putting all the blame on Camille, like, because I think Mercedes was pretty bad in a lot of them, but I think she's come across better these couple weeks. How about you? No?
I could have used a drive-by. If someone trying to run someone over with a car, that would have got me more amped for this TBS time match. No, this was fine. Like, it was a fine promo segment. And, you know, Mercedes, I think she's coming off a really great match with Chris Statlander. And I think that people are going to have the expectation that this is a great performance. And fortunately, it's one where I think everyone kind of knows the state with like Anna Jay, like fight hard and then you fall in the end, which is a story they do a lot in AEW, but we'll see how the crowd reacts to it and how good of a match the two.
So who's at Mercedes actually going to face soon?
Thunder Rosa.
Rosa, right.
Oh, sorry. No, Thunder Rosa is lined up for Mariah May. So for Mercedes, I mean,
Somebody said that they wanted to go for. Oh man, it's not crossing my mind right now.
I mean, you could do Camille, but that to me feels as though it's
maybe we don't know yet.
All right, so then we go to the main event with Mariah May and Mina Shirakawa for the women's championship, and early on there's a figure 4 applied on May. They roll to the floor, and Thunder Rosa is in the crowd with a sign that reads, "Mariah May, you may not."
Is this the first time we've seen Thunder Rosa on Dynamite in like months?
She is very collision heavy in her appearances.
Can she claim that
these signs were? I mean, they were something else. This wasn't exactly a Sammy Guevara level with clever signage. Mariah May, you may not, and she's screaming, "You are not my champion." So. Mariah Mariah's leg is wrapped around the post. Mina applies the figure 4 around the post. They get into a big striking battle. Mina hits her with a rolling elbow and a spinning back fist. Both women are down. And then after an inverted DDT, Mariah comes back with the Mayday. Mina kicks out, and this is when the crowd really gets behind Mina. They're chanting for her. She goes for another Mayday, and Mina tries to counter it into a crucifix bomb and kind of lost her mid-move. Comes back with the sling blade off the turnbuckle, and then the glamorous driver is hit. Mariah May kicks out, and as she headbutts Mina, that leads to the Storm Zero with Mariah retaining the championship. And I'm thinking after this, well, we're just going to go to Mariah May and Thunder Rosa, but then Toni Storm returns, but she is coming back as time-sensitive Toni Storm.
Time-sensitive Toni.
This was Toni Storm pre-gimmick coming back, and she got a pretty big reaction, and that's how the show ended. Like, no face-off with Mariah May, no physicality, just walked out, and that was it. So, I mean, they have waited and waited and waited, and now she is back, and it's just weird. They were just pushing this Thunder Rosa match the whole time, and God knows I don't want a 3-way out of this.
I mean, I'm sure there's a bigger story there that will involve Thunder Rosa, and hopefully, I mean, I think it's potentially really good for Thunder Rosa to now be involved in the A women's program in AEW on Dynamite. It kind of assures that she's going to get a spot on Dynamite now, I hope, if she's attached to this.
Somewhat, but she does kind of feel like just the transitional challenger till we get to what everyone sees as the showdown. So sure. I will see what they do with this before we cast judgment.
Yeah. Let's go back to the match. I thought it was a really good match. I think in terms of technique and aggression, like both May and Mina like show their high quality pedigrees from Japan here. Body part work was good. Crowd connected with them for the most part. I was really happy to see this get the main event treatment. Excellent video package with Renee Young's Renee Paquette's voiceover early on. But I do maybe to me it was the lack of familiarity with the finishers and maybe just a little bit of like missed moves in the end that might have hurt it. I thought the crescendos weren't maybe as big as I was expecting, towards the end of the match. But I thought overall these two did really well with their program in a few weeks. I had anticipation for this match, and I thought the resulting match was very satisfying.
Yeah, I thought that they, especially the Mayday kickout was, I thought like that really got the audience into it. Like there were some slip-ups here and there, but I mean, overall, I think that it was a fine match at the end. And you got the big surprise at the end, which I think was a legitimate one for the audience at the end. And kind of leaving things with like a cliffhanger at the end. Like you want to know what Toni Storm is like, how she's going to go about like with this.
So she didn't really lie.
The Timeless character.
She didn't really lie in that interview. Like Timeless Toni Storm, I guess we could assume is retired, and this is. I'm curious to know how this plays into like the story, or at least the character. Like, did she suffer amnesia and suddenly woke up back in her old normal Toni Storm body? Is this just another role for her?
That was my thought. Is that she's going to be back in time, and she's on great terms with Mariah May. Like, she's the sidekick here until they're ready to, like, this could be a long-term thing, long term being Australia, when you could finally, like, her memory comes back or whatever, which I mean, this could be not so great. If amnesia angles are very tough in wrestling, but something along those lines. That was my thought coming out of this, is that Toni Storm is aligned with Mariah May to hold off, and that allows you to do Mariah and Thunder Rosa, and you don't need to get to this match until February.
I'm personally fascinated because of, I think what they've done prior, like that long-term story they told initially with Mariah May and Timeless Toni Storm, I think one of the best this year in professional wrestling. Certainly one of the best this year in AEW. So this second chapter is, I'm very optimistic for it, So, man, it seems like they're just always going to be in each other's orbit now. As they should, like for a long-term build like this.
I sense you enjoyed the show.
Yeah, this is weird because like I enjoyed the wrestling on the show for the most part, but man, like there are a lot of holes you could poke into the show because there's so many things that could be better, or so many things that just like maybe just simply aren't as good as they should be, or simply aren't good. How
do you find the flow of how did you find the flow of tonight's Dynamite?
Usual, like incredibly fast. But that's because I'm taking notes as well, and I'm having to digest my thoughts as I'm watching it. Like if I'm just watching it straight, maybe it'd be more enjoyable, I should say. How about you? What do you think?
I see, like at the end of it, I feel like there's a million things that happen on these shows, and that would suggest that like there's like the usual, but I do feel the pace is a lot slower. I mean, at the peak,
compared to what?
Like the peak of like Dynamite, where I was watching it in real time, and like I could not take a breather like at all. And at this point now, I can pause Dynamite and like read a book for 15 minutes and come back.
No way.
Yes, I can. I did it tonight.
Wow, really?
And I just feel like there
aren't even enough commercial breaks. I guess it depends if you skip like the picture in picture.
No, I don't. I catch up.
Because even like total like actual commercial time, I wonder if it's even 15 minutes. Like actual commercial breaks where like they don't show you any content on trailer.
Oh, yeah. It's very few that like if you're watching
like
on AEW Plus where they just go to the graphic screen, like it's maybe 3 times on the show that they have those like full on breaks. Yeah, I thought that the wrestling was very good. But I think we're also talking about a period where I think wrestling is less rewarded by the fan base than ever in AEW.
Just to maybe like elaborate on that, Kyle versus Adam Cole. When we're watching that match, there's nothing that you can complain about that wrestling match. It's a good technical wrestling match, but is it a hot program? Did the crowd respond like it was a hot program? The answer is no. So like it depends on what you're here for, how you're grading this show. Are you here just for like solid wrestling, or are you here for like maybe great crowd participation and great solid storytelling? That might leave you either satisfied or unsatisfied.
I think that's a huge factor, and I think AEW more so because that was such an appeal of these shows, was these rabid crowds that enhanced the action, that just by natural osmosis it felt so much hotter when a crowd's reacting like that. Like that's going to have a big impact on you. I'm very curious to see how well received these Hammerstein shows are, because in theory this is the size of building that people have been clamoring for. Hopefully you're going to have 2, if not 3, super hot nights of television, and you come out of it with like some spark because of that fact. And
do you have like ticketing updates for those shows?
Every night is over 1,000 at this point. I don't know what they're scaling those for. Like as we've said, like GCW for their pay-per-view did 2,000 a few years ago, but with television and like I don't know what they're going to cap that number at. I don't think it's going to be close to 2,000, but regardless, like you're going to have like a pretty, for a venue of that size, like those are fine numbers.
Okay.
Well, there you have it. That was winter. Winter has come and gone. just like that. Actually, Winter will continue on Saturday because they are going to St. Louis. They're taping the show Thursday to air on Saturday night, which they did mention tonight. It will air after the NBA coverage, and it's going to be a wonky.
And live on the West Coast too.
Yeah, live on the West Coast, and you're airing the same night as Saturday night's main event. So, I mean, unfortunately, this is going to be another collision that I think just for those factors alone it's going to be really tough for people to be setting aside 2 hours to watch this show.
Yeah, and unfortunately, it's all happening. Like, clearly, the C2 is not enough to counter it, you know, and it's basically kind of giving people reason to, like, not keep up with the C2 when, you know, they have all these other shows in competition. So,
yeah. I mean, all they announced tonight for Collision was, like, the FTR call-out, Top Flight and Andretti and Rush, and Kyle Fletcher against Mark Briscoe. Those are the 3 matches we got. Now, by tomorrow, after it's taped, like, people can find out the whole card, and I'm sure they will alert you to that. But it's not as though they announced one thing that was so can't miss that you're going to make sure that you find Collision on Saturday night.
Right. Let's go to Super Chat here from Jake from the Windy City, who sends $5 to say, what are your final thoughts on the F1 season? Really enjoyed the second half with different drivers. Happy McLaren won. Also, what's on your Spotify Wrapped playlist? You happen to watch at least, you told me you were jumping back onto F1 for at least one race. Did you happen to catch anything?
I lied. I didn't.
Oh, you didn't even do that? Wow.
Yeah, sorry. I'm totally out. I didn't even know McLaren won.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well,
I saved them all, and I was going to watch all the races, and now I've been spoiled.
Spoilers. I've really enjoyed the second half of the season, much like you, Jake. You know, I actually enjoyed the first half too, just because I at least was interested in maybe the dominance of Red Bull. But I mean, the story of the year is just maybe how much either they've declined or the rest of the field has caught up. And that I think is very unique, especially for what was traditionally maybe a midfield or even bottom level team like McLaren to make that ascent. So it's been awesome to see that. It's made the last few races so much exciting, but so much more exciting because you couldn't predict a winner. I believe like they were really sharing wins, you know, among so many. So next season I think is going to be that much more interesting because you're getting so many driver swaps, you're getting new drivers in there. So I'm actually really looking forward to next season. It's always hard because like I'm definitely an F1 fan, but I never really have the time to sit down for an entire race. It's really tough, you know, on these weekends. So I usually end up watching like the race in 30s that they produce and try to keep up that way. Are you on Spotify? Do you
I am. Spotify? I haven't opened up my rap list, to be quite honest. It was sent to me and I haven't opened it. So okay. I can't tell you off the top of my head. Well, I haven't looked at it, so
my Spotify Wrapped is a combination of like songs I like, but mostly like songs my kid likes. And thankfully, like I play music I like for my kid, so it's like my 2-year-old's favorite song this year is "Operator" by Jim Croce, which he's just gravitated towards. So we play that a lot. "Not Like Us" by Kendrick Lamar is number 2, and
a child's favorite.
And I think the Wiggles, "Fruit Salad" is number 3.
Oh, I probably have the Wiggles in mine. I would assume.
Yeah, 3 very influential, popular artists.
The Keys, Kendrick Lamar and a Wiggles collab would be.
Oh yeah,
great.
Yeah, maybe they can get into a beef with each other.
Oh, okay. Well,
I want to hear the Wiggles diss track.
Let's go to Brian in New Jersey. I enjoyed the 2 C2 matches the most and thought the rest of the matches were fine. Could have done without the opening tag match ending with a DQ after 2 segments. Toni Storm's return was very nice, but way too brief. Looking forward to hearing from her soon to establish her new/old character. Booking a 4-way for the world title at World's End didn't surprise me, given the booking the past few weeks, but multi-man pay-per-view matches for the title haven't led to a title change, if I recall, and I've never been convinced a title change would happen in them. I didn't expect Moxley to lose it in a singles match at this pay-per-view, so I definitely don't expect him to lose it in a 4-way. I'm sure it'll be fun, but I expect the Continental Classic to be the focal point of World's End. Matt Cardona laying into the white meat babyface shtick so much in these recent AEW appearances would make me think a big heel run is coming after he loses at Final Battle, but I don't anticipate him sticking around after Final Battle.
It's interesting, yeah, to think if he's actually with AEW now, or if this is all just fuel to like further his GCW character. I wonder. I don't know.
Either or.
All right, let's go to Andrew from Cape Breton, who says, winter came and went, but AEW certainly went back to the past tonight with Tony Storm's look from the 80s and Will Ospreay's haircut from the 90s. I was surprised Tony Storm came back the way she did. I understand you can't go with a gimmick like that forever, but it was really fun. Well, who's to say it's not just a temporary, I guess that was the Tony Storm that retired, though I'd like to see the timeless one pull a Terry Funk sometime in the future. The matches were great tonight, but it seems like the Death Rider stuff gets a lot of DQ finishes, which is annoying. I'm also interested in what's going on with Matt Cardona. I know he's not officially signed with AEW or GCW, but it certainly makes things interesting when there are problems going on between the two companies. My dream scenario would be Cardona wins the ROH title and takes it to GCW with him. I wonder if an ROH versus GCW feud could be done for ROH TV, and maybe that is what leads to the new TV deal. Some food for thought anyway.
If FE leads to a television deal for ROH, then you know what? He gets MVP of the year, okay, in anyone's awards. Hey, listen, I think that there is obviously some interest in this Matt Cardona stuff and whatever it leads to. So, I mean, it would certainly suggest that this is certainly worthy of like a match for ROH that they're promoting and people having an expectation that it could lead somewhere else. I think it's I would say this. I think there would obviously be a certain appeal if they were able to work this into some angle. I also think it's a sense like you're booking for such a narrow audience, but maybe that is what
I think that's exactly what ROH is.
Yeah.
Like, I think that, like, who's watching ROH, like, and who do you want to watch ROH? More importantly, who do you want to be, what type of fan do you want to pay, I don't know, $9 a month to subscribe to Honor Club? Right? It's the type of fan that might be plugged in enough to know about all this stuff, right? I mean, I love it. Obviously, like, I think a GCW would love to have this. Like, I think it's only a positive for them. It's just dependent on whether.
Well, I will say this: it would certainly be a way for AEW to babyface themselves to the public to invite GCW where there is some angle shot at Final Battle that hypes up their pay-per-view the next month at the same building, as almost like we're running this.
Would that babyface AEW?
I think if AEW is helping to promote this GCW pay-per-view the next month, I think it would reflect positively on them.
So you would just promote or actually do an angle, like an invasion angle? What do you mean?
I think I think one and the same. Like, yeah, you shoot some angle, but it's obviously to garner attention for this show. Let's be honest, like this GCW show is not like knocking them dead with like.
It's also so I'm curious to know who would actually be the babyface in that scenario. Who would the crowd actually pick to cheer for? And is that the risk that you're taking if you're AEW to be the heels? Against this renegade promotion like GCW.
Maybe it's Matt Cardona wins the ROH title, open challenge. AEW announces we're sending someone to take that title back, and Ricky Starks comes out at GCW.
It's Ricky Starks, it's Willie Mack, like there's a whole roster of those guys. Ray Phoenix could show up.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
All right.
Yeah, I mean, this is the state of things. All right. Well, there you have it, everyone. That is the end of the show. We are back on Thursday to review Knock at the Cabin, starring Big Dave Batista. We will talk all about his attempt to stop the apocalypse from going down. Will he be successful or not? Do you think Paul Levesque watched this movie?
I don't know. I don't know what movies he watches.
I doubt it. I don't think he would have had time to watch this or the interest. I don't know.
The question is this Dave Batista's best acting performance? Not whether or not this is the best movie he's been in, but whether or not this is the best individual performance by Dave Batista, okay?
Yes. We're going to learn all about Leonard on Knock at the Cabin.
Because for me, okay, it's either between this or Blue Hat Batista, okay? That run he had.
Blue Tista,
yeah. That is currently my favorite Dave Batista performance right now. Could Knock at the Cabin unseat Blue Hat Batista.
All that will be answered on Rewind Away, so join up at postwrestlingcafe.com. $6 gives you access to the cafe and all of our bonus shows, which include all Rewind Aways going back to 2017. I also put out a lengthy look at Saturday night's main event. Not just a look ahead to Saturday, why this is an important show for WWE, but the whole construction of this deal way back in 1985 between Vince McMahon and Dick Ebersol, who have no involvement in this current iteration of Saturday night's main event. So that's up as an article and as an audio version as well for those that can't stand reading.
These are excellent from John, and that he'll drop several times throughout the month, and I believe the free article will be out. The written version.
We're going to release the free version on Thursday, so that will be out there as well. So yes, sign up, postwrestlingcafe.com. This month we will be doing the best and worst of show at the end of the year with Braden Harrington and Davey Portman. That will be an exclusive on the Post Wrestling Cafe. So that will be the big show this month for Post Wrestling Cafe subscribers at all levels of the cafe. So check out all of that, and we will speak with you on Thursday. Pick up a varsity jacket at chop-tees.com. Good night.